Okay, being a musician can be tricky, can be tough to get your music out there. So in today's video, I'm showing you how I used an online platform called SubmitHub to get my music out to blogs, and I'm going to show you if it's worth it, plus a couple of little tips and tricks to make the process a little smoother. Let's go! Alright, before we dive in, please tickle that like button and hug that subscribe button. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm and helps push these videos out to more people. And I'm on a mission. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on this new channel before the end of September, so just 2 little months to go. Okay, now, helpful stuff, here we go. SubmitHub acts as a way for independent artists to directly speak with blogs, influencers, YouTube channels, Spotify playlisters that was not readily available before. In a previous world, you had to hunt down the individual blogs' submission email, send them a press release, and that is still true for some of the bigger publications like Pitchfork and whatnot. But you can use SubmitHub to reach quite a lot of publications which you wouldn't have been able to do before. Now, the way it works is that you buy a bunch of credits, and each blog charges a certain number of credits to listen to your track. Now, don't get your hopes up. You're not going to be getting hundreds and hundreds of approvals through SubmitHub, but I'm going to show you now how it's worked for me and a couple of tips to help you have a better chance of success using this platform. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to use my upcoming single. It's called Keys. So first we go to submithub.com. Right. So because I'm logged in already, it shows my previous releases and whatnot. And yeah, you can see that this last one, it was already almost a year ago. So yeah, 2020 has been a bitch, but I got a lot of releases planned for later this year. So you can see I sent it out to 153 blogs, and I got 114 decisions, and of those 14 approvals. So that's not bad. That's a bit over 10%, probably more like 12%. But yeah, you can see that the campaign before that was even better. That's like 20% from the Eating Sunshine campaign. So I know I did send the You and Education campaign to a lot more blogs. I sent it to 153, whereas for Eating Sunshine I sent it to 83. But you can see that I pretty much got the same number of approvals. Now the reason being is that in that time period between May last year and October of 2019, a lot more blogs became available on SubmitHub, so there were more people to submit to. So you have to buy credits. Now, when I was doing it for the last campaign, this option wasn't available. So I think this was the highest number of credits you could buy. 100 credits, $80. So that's what, 80 US dollar cents a credit. So that's pretty cool. And now they're giving a discount because of the coronavirus time. So not a bad time to buy a whole batch. You know, you can grab the 500 credits and get that 90% off of that, because you will end up using lots of credits, and if you're going to be submitting several songs, the credits don't expire. Might as well get the biggest package for the biggest amount of discount. Alright, so let's go submit a song. Alright, which song would you like to use? I'm going to submit a new song. You can use any of these links, but they recommend SoundCloud or YouTube. So I'm going to grab my SoundCloud link. What is pretty important is that you get all the metadata right. Okay, so if you look here, I've added in all the metadata, blah, blah, blah. I've put in the ISRC code, the release date. I've added the little description. And that's all important. You should always get your metadata on point. So let's go submit. We're gonna paste the link, put in all these details. I've previously submitted a cover song and it didn't get much success. There are a few publications that are interested in cover songs, but yeah, that does limit your options quite a bit. Now, what can we tell you about the song? I'm just gonna copy what I wrote for the description on SoundCloud. Now, in terms of this description, try and add some things that a blogger might be interested in. Think you want to make their job easier. So if you put in information if you basically put in something that they could copy paste, that is not a bad plan, because they're getting so many submissions. They have to post onto their platforms all the time. So just try and like put yourself in the shoes of the publication to make life a little bit easier for them. So hopefully that's a little something they can play off. I put in the song lyrics kind of relate to the coronavirus pandemic in the world, and like how people are struggling, you know, with their emotions and all that stuff. So that might be a little in. They might be able to mention that in their blog post. It might be something more relevant for them to talk about. Similar artists, I always kind of struggle with this one. In the past, I've put the similar artists there, and some of the feedback I've gotten has been really weird. They've said, oh, it sounds too much like Vampire Weekend. I'm like, well, it is in the same genre, so it's going to sound pretty similar. That's kind of at your peril. I found that in the feedback that you get, which you can also quite largely ignore, I'm going to get into that in a bit, they often take the similar artists that you've written down here and possibly use it against you. But I guess it's not a bad idea to put the stuff in there. It just might make the decision making easier for them. Hopefully if you put in an artist that the blog also likes, they might be more likely to engage with the song, listen to the song. However, if you put an artist in that they don't like, right? For example, let's say I submitted to a blog and they liked indie rock music, but they happen to hate Vampire Weekend. So I've pre-framed it then in their mind, saying that I'm like Vampire Weekend, and that might make them have a worse reaction to the song than if I had left that section blank. So you can kind of experiment. I am going to put in a couple of artists just in case. I'm going to put in Vampire Weekend. Yeah, I always struggle with the similar artist stuff. So I'm just basically using things that are on my Spotify. This one's a bit poppier though, so I guess maybe Imagine Dragons a little bit. I don't know, let's just do that for now. Can always change that. Artist profile. Now, there's a whole bunch of articles that are worth checking out as well. So, submit. You have, there's a difference between premium and standard credits. The advantage of the premium ones is a guaranteed response. Submission goes to the top. They must listen for at least 20 seconds, and you'll get 10 words of feedback. Whereas a standard one is free, 2 credits every 4 hours, no guarantee of response or feedback. So yeah, in my experience, I've just used premium credits predominantly. Oh, the other bonus with the premium credits is if they have not listened to the song, if they have not given any feedback, if they didn't listen for 20 seconds, then you get your credit back. So that happens actually quite a lot, as you can see in this top section here. I mean, when I did my last campaign, I used all my credits, but because a bunch of people didn't listen to the song, I got my credits back. I got 62 credits back. So that's quite a good advantage of using the premium credits. Now, you can submit to record labels. I'm not that interested in record labels because I've been learning about how to market my music myself using predominantly like Facebook ads. So if you're interested in any help, you can click the link down below if you'd like to apply to have me work with you. I managed to get to 4 million views on my Facebook video for one of my singles. I got to 1 million for another one. I got 1.5 million streams on Spotify and Apple Music and stuff as well. So I've learned a few subtle tactics to help in terms of advertising and growing without the need of a record label. So I'm going to ignore the record label stuff. Those industry guys are only going to want to work with you until you're big enough that they can see money on the table for them. Now's a good time to be an independent artist. Alright, so curators, bloggers, playlisters. Yes, please. How important is the quality of written feedback? I tried this one, make them listen to at least 90 seconds. I did not find that very useful at all. Actually, in that campaign where I forced them to listen to 90 seconds, I got the worst results of all my campaigns. And yeah, it's probably because people don't like to be forced into stuff, and it might also have to do with the fact that if they're busy, they're listening to lots of songs, they're probably like typing out their feedback very shortly after listening to a song. I can imagine if you're listening to hundreds of songs, you kind of get a rough idea of what you like within the first 10, 20, 30 seconds. So I would say just ignore this 90-second option. Don't use that one at all. Ignore this one. Let's go for quite important, because then they can't copy paste, you know. I want them to at least think about the song that they've listened to, even if they're only listening to it for 20 seconds. Hopefully they will, because they can't copy paste a response, they'll hopefully put a bit more thought into it. Yeah, let's see. Now, this section is quite important in terms of YouTube, because If you give permission, that means a YouTuber will be able to make a playlist or a video with your song in it, and it won't get a copyright strike. They'll be able to monetize that and make money from it, which is what those music YouTube channels do. So if you're happy with that, you can give permission. If you're not happy with that, say don't give permission, and then SubmitHub will filter out all of the curators that required permission. So that's pretty handy. I'm okay with them monetizing it, actually. So I'm going to say yes. Now genre, I'm going to say that we are alternative indie, and then there's a drop down so you can select which one you want. I'm going to say indie pop for my stuff. What I like here is that they give examples, so even if you're not entirely sure of what genre you're in, you can kind of base it roughly on the examples they're giving. So maybe even this song, because it's got a synth hook, you know, maybe it'll work for indie-tronica. I'm not sure, but let's just try it out. So for the first campaign, I'm gonna focus on just bloggers. Now, ones that I in this type, I'm not gonna submit to SoundCloud, because the SoundCloud ones, they are just for reposts. I'm not really interested in reposts on SoundCloud. You know, I have 100,000 streams on SoundCloud, but I have 1.5 million on Spotify, and way more beneficial for me to focus on Spotify than on SoundCloud reposts. I don't know if that really does anything. Radio stations, in the past I've said yes to radio stations. I've had a few submitted, but you don't really get much return from the radio stations. Let's first quickly focus on bloggers, and you can see that here the price varies. So some bloggers only need 1 credit, some need 2, some need 3. You can see that on this side here. So to submit to independent music reviews, it would only cost 1 credit, so about $80, right, depending on the package that you bought. And here in this filter, let's focus on Hype Machine. Hype Machine is cool because that is quite relevant to the industry. It's also relevant to the editorial curators of Spotify playlists. So to get featured into an editorial playlist on Spotify, yes, you can submit, and you should submit 2 weeks before your release, the submission form on Spotify for artists. However, those editorial playlists, because they're curated by people, those curators are often looking through the web trying to discover new music, and they often use tools like Hype Machine to find the next big track or tracks that they might be interested in featuring on their editorial playlist. So I'm going to have a look at the Hype Machine thing here. You can also tick off the really good bloggers. The cool thing is everything you hover over gives a little example and a little description of what it is. Now this is 3 little $signs, so this one is kind of expensive, I guess. Okay, so to summarize, my genres: indie pop, indie-tronica, pop rock. I'm filtering for really good bloggers and listed on Hype Machine. Right, so in the search results, it tells you a little bit about the blog. You can see all these extra functions on the side as well. But the most important stuff to look for is the genre match. So it's out of 10, and it's 10 out of 10 because we're filtering from most highly qualified highest matches to lowest matches. Now the quality is based on their activity, so how long they listen, type of feedback, responsiveness, approval, sharing habits. So they're high quality. And then the influence, this one's really important as well, because you don't necessarily want to be wasting money on very low influence curators. So they are 9 out of 10. That's pretty huge. The approval rate here, that's really important to look out for. So it's 13.4%. A good range is maybe between, 13% is great. Anything around the 10% mark, really, really good. So I would probably submit to things that have a 5% plus approval rating. And then I would be hesitant for when it gets over maybe 22%, because as it gets closer to the 30% mark, that's not really that helpful. It means that they're approving loads and loads of stuff. It might not be that helpful in terms of Spotify playlists down the line for those Spotify editorial curators. And SubmitHub actually also sends out, if you get into their popular, the popular chart, right, which is up here. If you make it into this popular thing, then then they send it out to a whole bunch of industry as well. So, but they don't classify any curator that has an approval rate of over 30%. They don't classify those for the popular section. So it doesn't really help you that much. So I'm going to stick to say 5% and 20% for approval rates. Okay, cool. Yeah, so pop music sounds pretty good for me. Let's scroll down now. Keep walking. So you can see here, because I've had multiple campaigns, I've sent through 5 times. I'm not stressing too much whether I've had 3 or 4 rejections from a curator before, because they might like the song. As long as it's kind of in the genre, they might dig it. Unless someone has said specifically, I hate your voice, I'm going to submit. Because that way you're building a bit of a relationship with them. They might remember you for your next release. They might not say yes for this one, but they might say yes for a future one. Now, this is just really important. I want to dive in here. Is this the best way to promote your music? No. Is this an additional way to promote your music? Yes. The number one way that I've found to succeed to promote your music is by using Facebook ads, finding the people who are most likely to like your music through Facebook, advertising to them, building up a relationship with them, getting their email address, selling merchandise to them online. Those are all the best ways. That's how I managed to get those Spotify followers. That's how I managed to get email subscribers, how I managed to sell t-shirts and CDs across the world. And some of my fans are hopefully watching this video now because they're interested in how I managed to find them, because I managed to find them online. And especially in a world like post-coronavirus, touring is looking less and less attractive to artists. So we need to be able to take our fates in our own hands and learn all about this online marketing stuff. That's super important. Now, this is a great way to try and get into blogs and all that stuff, but how many people are reading blogs? How many people are reading an article about a blog and they're like, cool, I'm going to listen to that right now? Those numbers are probably dwindling. But for me personally as a musician, what I'm using these for is to hopefully get sound bites, like little snippets of a review that I might be able to use in a Facebook ad, or in a press release, or in an email to a venue or to a festival and say, hey, well, this is my recent song, it got this many streams, this publication said this nice thing about it. So that's what I'm mainly using it for. So it's especially useful when you're starting out, because you need to get those sound bites to be able to use in those emails, in those press releases. Luckily, I've got a couple of great sound bites already, so that's why it's less and less important to me at the moment to focus on blog submissions through SubmitHub. However, the Spotify filter, whether they have a Spotify playlist, that's still very relevant to me. So I'm definitely going to be submitting to them. So anyway, let's just keep looking through here. We've got Keep Walking Music. They've got an okay approval rate, 5%. So it's a bit on the low end, but it's still worth it. However, it is 2 credits. So that's worth keeping in mind. The quality is good, influence is good, so definitely worth it. Niche music, the approval rate's really low, so I probably would skip niche music. Now I know I've submitted to these guys a whole bunch of times. I don't think they've ever said yes, but they are a very well approved site. So they have high quality, high influence, very low approval rating though. So that's because they get so many submissions, I would imagine. Do I keep sending to them? You know, you can create notes. You can add to favorites. You can add a note. So I gave a note here based on previous feedback. So I just did A for people that gave the best feedback or shared my stuff previously. B was people that said encouraging things, but they didn't think that that song was particularly right for them, but they alluded to the fact that I should keep submitting. So I gave them a B, and then people that didn't seem keen at all, I gave a C. I gave pretty much everyone who was really not keen a C, because I don't want to keep hammering my music down someone's throat who's not interested. It's just a waste of my time, my money, and their time in there. Yeah, you often see that blogs take a break. They might go on holiday, or they put it into weekend mode, but you can set a reminder so that you know when they return and you can submit to them then. Which is not a bad idea, because some of the blogs might actually be pretty interested in your music, but they might not be available when you're busy doing your submissions. So it's worth it to set those reminders. As we carry on going down this list, you'll see that the genre match eventually will start to diminish. So let's just go all the way down. So over here, underrated, the genre match is a bit less. And that is because, maybe because they've only approved 20 indie pop songs or so out of a load that they've received, and their approval rate is tiny. So yeah, maybe they prefer lo-fi pop and shoegaze a bit more. So here's a good example of the notes. Like, I submitted to them previously and they said they prefer darker music, right? So more alternative, more edgy, whereas my stuff is pretty upbeat and happy. So I put the C there, and I said they prefer darker tunes, so maybe if I have a future release that is a bit more moody, I might send it to them, but I'm definitely not sending any happier stuff to them. It was a waste of time. High Clouds also previously have said nice things, but they don't post my type of music, so I just gave them a note saying not suitable, not to waste my money on them in the future. Right, so now we're going to look at Spotify playlists, influencers, and YouTubers. But remember, the YouTubers most likely will want permission to monetize, so they'll need an MP3 and they will need you to sign a contract, but it's all pretty straightforward through SubmitHub, so it's not a lot of admin stress for you. Cool. So Rex, he has shared quite a lot of indie-tronica or indie pop. His approval rate is 50%. Now, one really important thing with Spotify is it is better to not get onto a playlist that is not relevant to your music. I make indie rock, pop, that kind of vibe. There's no sense in me getting onto a hip-hop playlist. It doesn't help me at all. You also don't want to get onto a playlist that is super diverse. If it has like trap and hip-hop and metal, what kind of person is listening to those kind of playlists? So you want to ideally, I'd rather be on a smaller playlist, maybe only a couple of hundred listeners, that are very focused on a certain type of music, because that tells the Spotify algorithm that those are the kind of people that like it, and therefore Spotify's Discover Weekly or Release Radar or any of their algorithmic playlists will be more likely to push it out to those type of people. If I have, hardcore hip-hop fans listening to my music, they probably won't like it, and I don't want Spotify pushing it out to hardcore hip-hop fans. So that's really important when selecting and submitting for playlist consideration, whether it's through SubmitHub or other kind of playlist promotion strategies. A lot of people get burned that way, so you want to have your data on Spotify be as pure as possible. Now, the cool thing here is at the bottom of Rex's thing, you can see the playlists that he has, and you can see how often he shares there. So sometimes he's sharing to more than one playlist at the same time, because he shares here 104% of the time. So he always shares it to that one, it seems like. But that's quite a lot of listeners, 1,300 to 2,100, not bad at all. Even here, 200 to 300 listeners, that's really good. A Star is Born soundtrack, I'm not exactly sure why non-Star is Born soundtrack songs would go on that playlist, but same here for the Captain Marvel one, that seems a bit weird. But anyway, I think for 3 credits, considering that he has lots of Spotify listeners, he usually listens for more than 90 seconds, and he's quick to approve songs that he likes. It's not a bad shout. So here you can see with Alex, he does not have a lot of listeners on the playlist that he shares to most of the time. So as you can see here, his influence score is really low. It's 1 out of 10. Whereas Rex, his influence score was 9 out of 10. So much better to pay extra to submit to Rex than to submit to Alex. Okay, now here, this is cool because it's a pretty new feature, is that you can submit it to Instagram influencers. So they might feature it in a post, or they might feature it in a story, or now coming up, Instagram has Reels to compete with TikTok, so they might be incorporating it there as well. So the cool aspect of this is that you can see her story views are quite high. That's a good number of story views. Her average likes, really good as well. Her focus is on kids and parenting, lifestyle. So yeah, that could work for my kind of music. Now, she probably would not be sharing anything that was like too sweary or too hardcore, because she's focusing on lifestyle and parenting and kids and that kind of thing. So yeah, and she says in the about section, I don't like music with explicit lyrics because it wouldn't work for her audience. She shared quite a bunch. Her approval rating is high, so she is definitely worth submitting to. I'm definitely going to submit to her. And at the bottom here you can see examples. So she pops mainly putting into the stories, it looks like, and she does a little blurb about it and has the song playing. Right, and once you've selected all the people you want to submit to, you just hit the submit button. Okay, now then you get to this screen. Obviously you need to have the right contact email, otherwise they can't get back to you. And this section is kind of helpful, specifically if something changes in your song. So if you have a build up and then like the drop is really important or really key, because a lot of curators are not listening to the full song. So if there's something that you really want them to hear, if it's a really interesting third chorus or something, direct them there. So as you can see in this example, check out 47 seconds for the first drop. Okay, it's kind of cool. Or anything else that you might want to include to help pitch it. If there's like a specific selling point that you want to include, here's a good place to do it. Then you just press submit. All right, cool. So that's all done. You can see the submission over here if you want to, who you sent it to, and you can submit to further curators with another campaign as well. Whew, okay, so I hope this video has been helpful. Just to summarize the highlighted points, when you are filtering, make sure you filter for your genre that you're looking for. And if, say, you're submitting to indie pop or indie-tronica, that's not an and statement, it's an or statement. So you're submitting to curators who either like indie pop or like indie-tronica, right? And they might like both as well. Look for curators who have an approval rating of around 10%, or on the low end 5%, on the high end 20%. And you can submit to blogs, you can submit to playlisters, influencers. What I wouldn't do is select the 90-second listening option. Just ignore that one, don't use it. And in my experience, I like saying that feedback is important. I have spent about $500 submitting through SubmitHub to blogs and playlisters and influencers. Have I had a huge return on investment from that $500? That is very debatable. It is definitely not the main arrow in my quiver when it comes to trying to get Spotify streams. But it does help. I've considered it, like I said, a secondary method to try and grow my Spotify following, try and boost my music career. But like I mentioned earlier, I find it more valuable to try and get a few sound bites, a few choice quotes that I can use in Facebook ads or in emails to other music industry like festivals or anything like that. So that's the main reason why I use it. I think the $500 that I've spent on SubmitHub, I would be able to generate far more streams and more followers directly using that $500 on Facebook ads. So if you're interested in working with me on Facebook ads to help grow your music business, just you can click the link down below and fill in that application to do some work with me. But I hope that this video has been helpful. Give SubmitHub a try. You can do it on a really low budget. Just make sure that you're laser focused. When you have a really low budget, only select the publications that are very, very likely to like your music. So when you're doing the searching through the publications, you can click on that side panel, see the type of music that they have shared recently if you're on a low budget. If you're on a higher budget, you don't need to waste too much time doing that, but you're obviously going to have far better results if you submit to blogs and curators who have shared music that is very similar to you in the past. So when I'm not making my own music or posting fun videos like trying to learn my most popular song in Chinese, oh, you can click there to listen to that one, or trying to record a song in 15 minutes, that one's up there too. You can expect me to post more videos on music marketing because I'm trying to help other independent artists also get their music out there and find their fan base and not have to work their shitty 9-to-5 jobs anymore, because that sucks. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, make sure you click the like button and the subscribe button. It would really help me with the YouTube algorithm as well. And I'm looking forward to doing a video next week, Friday. So stay tuned, and I hope to see you next week. Peace out.